without further ado, I think we get into our top 5 movies.
Yes, our top 5. This is Ben and I. This is the Action Guys' top 5 favorite movies of all time, and these are the qualifying factors. The number one thing that I think is the most important thing with these movies, Ben, is rewatchability.
Yeah, so I think a great metric of rewatchability is like there are some movies that I love, but when I've thought about rewatching them, I don't feel particularly compelled. It's not that I don't think they're great movies. Like I'll give you a great example. Star is Born and La La Land both. I loved both of those movies. They both really like rocked me to my core emotionally. I've had no motivation to rewatch either one of them ever. It's not because I didn't think they were good. It's just they didn't give me a feeling that I wanted to revisit.
Yep.
It was like I got what I needed out of that movie, and I don't want to see it again.
And it's almost like what's interesting about both of those movies, because I've watched both of them. I've watched Star is Born a couple times now, or twice specifically. I've seen La La Land maybe 5.
Yeah.
They're not as good. They obviously don't get better, but the idea of them as that movie the first time is perfect.
It's the most special thing.
And since we already know Shawshank's on both of our lists, now the first time you watch Shawshank, it's perfect, right?
Yeah, it's flawless.
But you want to feel it again.
Yeah.
Whereas with Star is Born, you're like, oh, shit. Or like Requiem for a Dream, I wanted to put in my top 10, top 5. You know I love that movie. I love that movie more than anyone else I know.
Yeah.
I still don't want to watch that movie that often.
Right.
You know? It just hurts.
Yeah, I mean, the last 10 minutes of that movie is like it's debilitating.
Yeah, and it's not even just that part. There's parts throughout it and the setup and the fall, but the rewatchability behind it. First of all, every movie on this list, I want to watch again, but I want to watch someone else watch it for the first time too.
And it also brings us to our second factor, which is that the movie gets better seemingly every time you watch it. So the rewatchability, it makes you want to watch, but then when you turn it back on, it's like you're watching with someone else. You literally feel like every scene is a greatest hits scene. Yeah. Like every single scene of the movie is like, I love this scene. Oh, I was waiting for this one. Oh, this is so good.
And no matter how many times you've seen a movie, even if you know the movie from beginning to end, you can say every line in it. For some reason, especially as time goes on, like I watch Shawshank maybe once every couple of years probably at this point, you forget little moments in it.
Right.
You forget, and it's like, I realized maybe I just missed my friend.
Yeah.
And you're just like, that's such a great line. I forgot about how great that line was, And McQueenie, Drew McQueenie, a good friend of ours, he called in AMA and he said his favorite line was when he was talking about, it's the very end, and he says, I hope I see my friend again.
Yeah.
I forgot about how great that line was, but when I watched it 2 days ago, I was like, it's so perfect
and simple
and subtle and simple and beautiful.
Yeah, it's incredible. So, I think it gets better every time. It's almost like you could watch the movie and defend every single scene in the movie, and there would just be no question. So the third factor, the depth / sort of special quality that this movie has. And this is important because it means if somebody was to take a really specific genre movie, like a movie that most people wouldn't consider to be good, but they have to be able to explain why it's so relevant. What's the thing about it that's so special? Why do you need to see this movie? If I talk about, The Weatherman with Nick Cage, which is like one of my most underrated favorite movies, there are factors to The Weatherman that I think are so special that only I recognize because I've seen it so many times, and I feel so much affection for his character in that movie.
Yes.
But to most people, they would think of that movie as kind of like a trashy, weird comedy from the mid-2000s. But if it was on my top 5, it has the factor, the depth that I would talk about where I would explain it. And that's, I think, such an important piece is that no matter the movie, whether you're talking Citizen Kane all the way down to fucking Hot Rod, you can still talk about what it is about the movie that's so important.
Yeah, even though this movie's been done before, even though this isn't the most original, because I have movies in my top 5 that it's not the most original movie ever made. One of them is actually very, very cliche, but it's about how
it's cliche.
It's cliche. I don't know why I said that. It's cliche. But there's just something about it where it's about the way that it's executed. It's just so well done. There's one thing about it, and for instance, another one of my favorite movies is like The Last Samurai.
Yeah, so good.
And this kind of bleeds into another one of our qualifying things. But one thing that people forget about The Last Samurai and the depth of it, not a lot of people remember how great Ken Watanabe is in that movie. And how that role, literally, he was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
No one remembers that.
I know. It was a big deal. It was a breakthrough for him.
It was a huge breakthrough. It was an incredible, incredible performance. So it's like, well, what is it about The Last Samurai where some white guy plays The Last Samurai? What makes it special? And you're like, well, first of all, Tom Cruise is amazing.
He's so good.
But it's also just the incredible. There's the battle with addiction in it,
Yeah.
which is very fascinating.
Yeah.
Him like winning over Ryoku, whatever the like
Yeah.
hard ass dude is, the hard ass samurai. And then the performance by Watanabe makes it so much different. Where this movie is actually it's elevated above. You know what a
so
normal action movie is, and I think that's a perfect way to kind of go into the very last thing.
That might be one of the most underrated movies of all time.
It's so good.
Yeah, Last Samurai is like criminally underrated.
Didn't you not see it when we covered it on AMA, or you'd only seen it like once or twice or something?
Just theaters, yeah.
Just theaters,
Haven't
yeah.
seen it since, yeah.
It's Edward Zwick,
Yeah.
right? It's like I think it's my favorite movie of his. But the last thing that we have, which is a perfect segue from Ken, is an iconic or anchoring performance. There's got to be something in it.
There's a performance in it that you could point at that you're just like, this is standout. This is like iconic, or like this is what makes this movie work. It's just like, and in some cases, like some of the movies on my list that I'll talk about, there's like 9.
Yeah.
Like that's what makes it. And when I say that, there's like characters in the movie that you could like take 5 minutes of them in the movie and watch it and like stop it every 12 seconds. Be like, so when he does this thing with his mouth, he says this thing, or like he gives this look, or like whatever. Like, she makes this sound as she takes the gunshot.
Right.
Like something you're just like, it is so perfect and so beautifully performed. And I think that those qualities, those 4 qualities.
Yeah, or you could even take that one character, The Rock.
Yeah.
One of our favorite movies ever. General Francis X. Hummel. I'll watch a whole goddamn movie about him.
The Rock, I mean, Hummel's the reason that movie is an all-timer for me.
I will watch a whole movie about General Hummel.
Yeah,
because
agreed.
he's that fascinating. He's that interesting to me. So, without further ado, is that how you say it?
I say that sometimes, but then I'm a Jew. I'm Jewish. Sounds like I'm saying something about a Jew.
Cliche. I'm just going to stop talking.